So we will now be switching over to just our normal podcast. It won't be for very long because
but we need to show you these this absolutely glowing
of course, but we will be chatting for a little bit, so don't go anywhere. I just need to adjust our cameras because I thought I'd done it before we started, but we are. You give me one moment. That's actually the way to fix it. I just need to restart our Discord call, so Yulwei will be gone for 2 seconds and we'll be back as I recall him here, and hopefully he answers swiftly. There we go.
So, there we are.
Hello, Yulwei.
Hello, hello.
You're in the right spot. There we go.
W indeed.
Live production, boys. It's the way to go, as my camera's decided to freeze. We love it. But welcome to the much more normal EveryWei podcast. G'day, everyone. I'm Everyday. With me is Yulwei. Thank you again to Mr. Terrence Ting for coming on. We love chatting with industry people, as we said, but no industry people left. Welcome. We haven't done a show since the VCS ended, so
that's true.
We've got a lot to talk about.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about everything that's maybe not.
Also, look
related.
here. Look here. Hang's an MVP. I love it so much. Look up there.
Yeah, that is absolutely perfect. I love this background so much. I can't even think of anything to say just looking at this perfect background. Well, thank you, Pang. You are our hero, and you always will be.
So Flash won the VCS. It's our first episode since they did it. We no longer have their CEO in the call, so we can be a bit more honest about how much of a surprise that was. Because to say that we didn't expect it is an understatement.
Yeah, we had the graphic with all the predictions, and I think half of the predictions were 3-0, and then there was like 1 or 2 3-1s in there as well, but no one really believed that it would be a close series.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thought, okay, 𝘀𝗀 just looks way better. Flash looked decent against EVOS, but not something otherworldly where they come in and just blow us away with insane performances. They were just, good, but not good enough to contest 𝘀𝗀, but that indeed was not the case. So I wanted to focus a little bit on the Game 5 𝘀𝗀 draft and what we think of. Well,
so to remind everyone,
play with their food too much. Did they actually lose this title playing 𝗀𝗶𝗃𝗃 and Tristana mid lane?
Yes, they did. So to remind everyone, well, they very literally did. They lost the last game with those two picks.
That's true.
To remind everyone what 𝘀𝗀's 5th draft was, it was set top. It's 𝘁𝗀. That's a good pick. Actually, was it 𝘂𝗎 playing? Might have been 𝘂𝗎. No, it was.
Yeah,
was it 𝘂𝗎? Yeah. Well, there's one mistake. Shyvana jungle, Tristana mid, Lucian Yuumi bot. It's interesting that you bring up the Tristana. I thought the Lucian was more troll. Putting Blazes on Lucian to me was a bit of a stinker.
Overall, I think the whole team comp has a lot of problems. They don't. So 𝘀𝗀 actually played to their win conditions pretty well in this game, and they were far, far ahead. They were like 6k gold up, and then over pushed in the mid lane. And Team Flash's very solid teamfight composition took over later on. But the question kind of is, did 𝘀𝗀 risk too much locking in these champs? Could they have gone for more classic team fighting, as they saw in the series already that team fighting is probably going to win the series? Should they have gone with something like the On? Flash played On in 4 of the 5 games, actually, very successfully so. I'm not sure where I stand, because I think the lead was actually big enough to close out the game. It would have been so glorious to see 𝗀𝗶𝗃𝗃 to the VCS title, the VCS champion. no one else really plays 𝘁𝗏, 𝘁𝗶𝗹𝗀 across the world. It would have been very, very fun to see 𝘁𝑦 lock in the title with that champion. But yeah, in the end, maybe 𝘀𝗀 has to be a little bit more serious next playoffs. I still feel like if they played the series again, I would still say 𝘀𝗀's favorite.
Yeah, I think this is the shock to the system 𝘀𝗀 needs. They don't auto-win now. Flash is actually good enough to beat them if they don't take it super seriously. So this is a good chat question. Do you think that Yoshino is better than 𝘂𝗎 and 𝘁𝗏? I'm going to rephrase it because I know your opinion on 𝘁𝗏, and I agree. Do you think Yoshino is better than 𝘂𝗎?
Right now, definitely.
Yeah.
I think 𝘂𝗎 has not shown anything special in the few games he's played in VCS stage. He's still a very solid top laner. He's still very strong in lane. But he also had some very stinker games where he just inted a lot. So I think 𝘁𝗏 is the way more consistent player who's also strong in lane. Yoshino is a little bit in between 𝘁𝗏 and 𝘂𝗎. He can have some very bad games. I think some of his draft priorities are not the greatest. We've seen him try to make Fiora work again and again, and every time he picks Fiora, he just ints on her. So
7-1 in the first Fiora game. He did not int. His team inted.
In the first one? Okay.
Yeah,
but he played a few
7-1.
Fiora games later on where he didn't play the best. But yeah, I still think he's the best player if you want to play through top lane. So if you want to play through top lane, traditionally you pick 𝘂𝗎. I think right now you pick Yoshino. And if you just want to play normal meta playstyle with bot lane focus, which is definitely meta right now, then I think you pick 𝘁𝗏, actually.
It's funny, I actually think that was sort of the dynamic we would have been talking about if we were talking about Prime 𝘂𝗎. He was the more flashy top laner. You played through him, he would carry you. While 𝘁𝗏 was just sort of your rock. You didn't have to play through him. He was just a very good top laner. You can kind of replace 𝘂𝗎 in that comparison with Yoshino now. What about 𝘀𝗏? I think 𝘀𝗏 is just worse than Yoshino. So, I think it's not bad.
Yeah, the interesting thing about 𝘀𝗏 coming in is actually, I think it kind of helped Flash because it made it easier to play around bot side. 𝘀𝗏 went on 4 out of 5 games in the finals, and they played heavily bot side focus, which was what brought them success in the EVO series as well, right? When they changed the playstyle to Slater CBL focus, suddenly they stomped EVOS 2 games in a row. So I think it definitely helped them to have a top laner that's not as good in laning phase, not as easy to play through, and put him on tanks, have him be solid in the top lane, and then just, trying to play through Slater, and it worked in the end. So in this specific meta, it might have actually been beneficial for them to put in 𝘀𝗏 over Yoshino, even though I think Yoshino can play weak side top lane as well. He has shown us a 𝘁𝗏 game. He has had some tank games last season as well, so I think he can do it. I don't think his team wants him to. If you look at his most played champs, it's Cannon, it's Jace, Set, so a lot of carry top laners. But yeah, this is one thing I think Yoshino, if he comes back to the team in time, needs to work on, or the team as a whole needs to work on playing around Yoshino as a weak side top laner as well.
Yep, absolutely. So we don't want to dwell on anything for too long, because we are doing a very, very shortened EveryWei section, because we did go for nearly an hour with the interview.
Yeah.
And I don't have all night. So what do you think sort of the effect on next split is? Do we still think 𝘀𝗀 is the favourite to win summer, or is it suddenly have to be Flash because they're the reigning champs? I think one big thing there is it depends on what 𝘀𝗀 does bot lane. They need a real ADC.
Yeah, I definitely think 𝘀𝗀 is still favorites to win. I still believe 𝘁𝗀 had one of his worst splits in Vietnam he ever played. Even in the finals, he was kind of useless in most of the games. So I think 𝘁𝗀 has to go back and maybe, get down to earth, get back from his MVP status where everyone believes he's by far the best player in the league. He wasn't in this split, and I think he has to improve. He has to be yeah, a little bit more serious, maybe even with his picks. And then I think Gum still has by far the best mid jungle duo. No one can contest Tier 1 Levi if they play on form. And mid jungle is one of the most important parts of the game. But I agree, bot lane, Blazes got exposed this finals. And I'm not sure where they want to go now. Maybe try to acquire one of the ADCs that went to VCSB now. I think not everyone can be perks, and Blazes so far really hasn't been.
He's been a bit more of caps. Maybe not even that. It hasn't super worked for Blazes. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't top VCS caliber for the ADC, and I think the role's just too important. The top difference wasn't as big as it was last year. Like, you didn't just have Zeros smurfing on everyone where it didn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think GAM also wanted to. Their roster for this season was supposed to be more versatile and able to play through everything, right? So they wanted to change from the topside focused team that worked in Vietnam but never seemed to work internationally to a more well-rounded team that could actually play the game in a very solid way, try to be like a major region team, actually. And for that to work, they need a good ADC. I'm not sure if they want to try to develop Blazes more. It seems like they believe in him. But it might be time to at least pick a substitute ADC. Someone like Police comes to mind. Maybe someone like Vit if he ends up getting relegated. Maybe pick up Vit and see if you can integrate him to the team as well.
Like, the comment in chat was that Blazes was the worst ADC in the league. Personally, I have no faith in it. I was not impressed. I know other people saw potential in him, and yeah, there's potential. He's young, but I think
people talking about Slay as well. I'm not sure if Slay wants to come back.
I think he's a streamer. I think he's happy.
I would like to see the Slay palette bot lane. I think that would be super interesting, especially after Slay swapped to support, and he actually played a very impressive season of support. So it would be super cool to see two players who can, or at least one of the two, knows both roles very well. That most of the time bodes well for laning phase. But yeah, I don't believe he's going to come back. So Gum might look at rookies. If you think about, I mean, they could have made a bid for Artemis actually before the season started. I don't think it's too easy to get Artemis right now. That's one of the players.
I want them to get 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗀𝘀 off the Buffalo Titanic.
It's not a bad idea.
Save 𝘀cie𝗰𝗀𝗀. Get him onto GAM alongside 𝘁𝗏 again. Hell yeah! I'd be totally down for that. I don't know if it'll happen.
Good idea.
I don't know what DBL. What's going on with DBL? Wasn't their split? Sure.
Really not, no.
Not their split.
Buffaloes. Well, we can talk in more detail about what happened to Buffaloes and all the teams and what roster changes we want to see maybe in a future episode. This one's already going on for 1 hour and 10 minutes. So
yeah, we'll wrap up soonish.
I think that's
make a few comments.
Just quickly wanted to talk about the MSI perspective, VCS perspective, and also heading to Worlds with 4 LEC teams and 4 LPL teams. How you feel about this?
So from the VCS perspective, it's interesting because I hadn't considered what Terrence said, which was not having MSI is a massive kick in the pants for Flash. Completely ignoring like performance and winning games, it's just a shit thing for their brand,
exposure,
right? Yeah. Because they don't get that exposure that they rightfully earned. They should be going to that Tier 1 tournament. Fortunately, Comrade Corona is not letting that happen. But something we talked about is MSI is really brutal for the minor regions. Yeah. So from like a pure, I like to win games, it might be better if you just go to Worlds instead. Because you can win in the play-in stage. You're going to get the shit kicked out of you at MSI.
Yeah. And last MSI was super close between CIS and VCS. It was a 5-game series, and if Gambit, I think it was, Vega Squadron, yeah, 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀𝘀, I think 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 they were called, wins one more game, VCS loses the second spot for Worlds. So even though we can now look at historic results and say, okay, VCS should earn that second world spot because they have earned in the last 2 years. Last year it was very close, so you never know. Maybe there's an upset and suddenly VCS loses their spot again, and we only send one team to Worlds, only into the play-in stage as well. So more like the other minor regions. So in the long term, especially for the teams not named 𝘀cie, it's actually a good thing now.
Yeah.
They get a second spot. It's easier to get to Worlds. VCS is already a very, very hard league to get Worlds to get to Worlds too, because it's only the first or second team. So, and we are super competitive. So for everyone that's not 𝘀cie, it's actually a very good thing that MSI gets postponed. You don't have to worry about 𝘀cie maybe not being as great internationally as someone like 𝘀𝗀𝗋 could be.
𝘀𝗀𝗋 never played international. Don't know what you're talking. They didn't go to Worlds. Worlds didn't happen.
Yeah, fair enough.
𝘀𝗀𝗋 at Worlds last year was hard to watch. It's the drafting. I don't want to go. That's a whole topic that we've done to death. But if you want to complain about those kinds of things with it, put a mod, post the Discord link in chat. Click on it. Come commiserate the VCS at Worlds with us, as we do often.
Worlds will now be super hard as well for everyone. With 4 LPL teams, 4 𝘚𝐿𝐸C teams.
That's the thing that I was going to touch on. Is I think 4 LPL is way more interesting than 4 𝘚𝐸C. Because the 4th 𝘚𝐸C team isn't that great. It's OG. Cool.
OG was not a bad team.
I'm not sure where they weren't bad, but they weren't.
OG has played super close series against G2. So
yeah, G2 also lost to Mad. So.
Also Stomp Fnatic.
Yeah, G2 is an enigma. I'd look cool. There's a 4th 𝘚𝐸C team. I don't think it'll massively change the landscape of Worlds. Whereas I think if you have a 4th LPL team, teams. The LPL has a lot of really good teams.
So interestingly enough, last Worlds, actually the 3rd LPL team didn't get out of groups. So just looking at the results, and you have to look at results, because how else can you justify sending teams from regions? All the 𝘚𝐸C teams got out of groups, and one LPL team actually did not get out of groups. But yeah, I agree. Of course, the 4th LPL team is more hyped. If you look at this split, it's going to be something like IG, FPX, JDG, and Top. So those 4 teams are all very, very good. So
LPL is terrifying.
Yeah. So at 4 regions for one teams, 4 teams for one region, of course, actually gives the opportunity to this region to get the first ever all Chinese semifinals, which I don't think will happen, but the possibility is now there.
Yeah, I mean, I think long term, 4 teams from a region is a lot. I don't actually think it's a good format. I understand why they're doing it, and I think it's the right call, but it is a lot of teams from one.
I just hope we finally get to see a playoffs game between 2 European teams. It has been so far everyone avoided those, but last year was very possible. Both Fnatic and 𝘀cie could have been opponents of. Oh no, everyone finished second place.
They could have been a Fnatic G2 final. That was a possibility, but Fnatic had to beat FPX.
Yeah. So, well, I just hope for 𝘚𝐸C against 𝘚𝐸C in the playoffs, and man, Worlds with 4 teams.
𝘚𝐸C is going to come in the play-in stage. They're going to sign Jensen on for the rest of the year. 𝘚𝐸C is going to come in the play-in stage. They're going to win. They beat everyone, get into the group, come out first, knock out G2. Go all the way to final. 3-0 FPX in the final. 𝘚𝐸C first OPL team to win Worlds. You watch.
Yeah.
With their autofill mid laner. Tallywhacker.
Did they just win the finals?
They got up 0-2. I'll check. They should have 3-0. They didn't 3-0. I'll be very surprised.
Yeah.
Over?
And now the spring split now, of course, is a little bit
Dial was
validated.
1 game 3. Okay, it's still going. It's 2-1.
Interesting. So there we go. We will wrap up soon, so you can go to watch OPL finals and then into LPL quarterfinals. So there's still a lot of league to watch today. This was a very. Do you have anything else you want to touch on? We can definitely come back next week and talk more in detail about VCS, maybe some rosters, maybe some hypotheticals. Which roster should acquire which player?
We've
dive into that.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about over the next few weeks. But we won't do it now. We've already gone on long enough. We normally try and keep to an hour, and we're already 20 minutes over. So, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks again to Terrence Ting. We always love having people from the industry come on. It's always super enlightening. We've got 2 CEOs now, 6 to go. And then we can say we've collected all of the badges and we can go to the Elite Four. But yeah, we've got the VCS English Twitter you should follow, as well as our Twitters, which are below us. They're not as funny as the VCS English ones, but they're ours. You should join the Discord. There's a bunch of stuff, a bunch of socials that our mods will plug, I'm sure. You should follow all of them to keep up with the community. And we hope to see you in the summer split. Whenever that's starting, because it might actually be July again.
Yeah, well, now with MSI being cancelled, they can actually move the summer split to something.
In the announcement, it said that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah, makes sense. So
might
have a little bit of a longer off season, and see you guys next week for another episode, or in between, and some Discord and Twitter discussions.
Absolutely. So see you guys then. Thanks for watching the EveryWei podcast. Have a good week, everyone.